Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
My name is Roniya, and I am a recent graduate from Wayne State University. And I did graduate with Bachelor's in Science and Public Health, wanting to go to med school. But I took a gap year, and luckily in that gap year, I really realized what I wanted to do for my career, and that was software development, which is a completely different career and area, field of work. And that's pretty much it.
So how did you, going back to the beginning, how did you decide on going into public health versus bio?
Yeah.
Because a lot of pre-med students, I guess, start with bio or psych as their background.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So bio and psych are considered one of the two most common majors that every incoming freshman takes who wants to go into pre-med. And what I realized is that especially when I was wanting to go to med school, I realized that in med school you don't need a bio major or psych major to get into med school. They really want diversity and diverse majors and individuals, and public health was just that opening door for something different, and it made it more bearable, I guess, just to learn and get me more inspired and motivated to go to med school, because public health really deals with community development and outreach programs, and I think that's the main thing I want out of it. So that's basically why I decided to do the public health, and it was such a new major at Wayne. So I was one of the first 10 people to do it, and I really liked it, and it's flexible, the schedule was flexible, so yeah.
Throughout your college journey, how did you feel that the public health major compared or prepared you for med school as opposed to a bio or psych major?
So, so for bio, it's very, it's a memorized major, in the sense it's completely you're memorizing facts every day, whereas public health, you're thinking out of the box. You're using the health science knowledge you have and how it could really impact not just an individual spectrum, but a community spectrum. And I think that's super important, and that's what creates a well-rounded physician. And although I do agree a physician treats a one-on-one patient, an individual patient, it is super important to really think of the bigger picture. And I think that's why public health really thinks, it makes people think out of the box.
Did you end up writing your MCAT, or was it before you started applying to med schools that you're oh, I don't really like this anymore?
Right. So I was really iffy about med school probably end of junior year. And usually everyone takes MCAT junior year of college. And my experience is that I took it in I think April of my junior year, which at the time I wasn't even ready for it. And what I realized is I don't mind test taking, but I am someone who wants to, I don't know how to say that, sorry.
I guess I was trying to say, did you end up taking your MCAT, or did you decide that you didn't want to do this field before you even took the standardized tests?
Okay, got you. Yeah, so I did take the MCAT junior year, and I did study for as much as I could and took it. But then after that, and that was after I got an okay score, and I decided right after that I will retake it. And I think around that retaking process is where it kind of unfolded how I wanted to change. And med school is probably not something I want to do in the long term.
So did you do research during your undergrad? I know a lot of med schools want you to have research pre-med, experience. Yeah.
Yes. I basically after my freshman year that summer, I did a cardiovascular emergency med research study. I joined that, and it was basically covering 35 cardiovascular studies in consenting patients at Detroit Bathing Hospital. So that was like, and that was like a really fast-paced research that I did, and it was a volunteer position, but ended up like you get paid, but eventually you have like a 6-month volunteer position before getting paid. And then after that, I quit that. So after I quit from the emergency research, I decided to hop over to pediatrics. So just so I can get like a different field of medicine, and I probably did that for like 2 months before I really decided I wanted to change careers.
Well, what did you do in pediatrics? The kind of, because you said after that you're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. What did you have a bad experience there?
Oh, I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. It was just kind of it was a breastfeeding study, so it was basically focusing on mothers, Detroit mothers who come in and maybe that probably had like a history of a drug abuse or a past history of like any kind of disease, and how breastfeeding affects the baby, a newborn baby. So that was basically our study, and we kind of like wanted to analyze like proteins in the specific proteins in the breast milk. And so my main job was to just like get samples, like like milk samples from mothers, and we just kind of analyzed it. But that was like the main study. But my like contribution, like I only did it for 2 months, so I was able to only consent patients, so I didn't really fall through with the whole analysis and stuff like that. Like if I, like for any pre-meds like listening in, like if you really want like a fast-paced environment, I would definitely recommend like emergency department. And then if you want more like of a chill research and like just more chill research, and obviously if you guys are interested in like pediatrics, I would definitely go on to that side.
And after that you kind of decided like I want to switch careers. Was this close to when you were graduating? Like were you in your senior year during this time?
Yeah, so it was weird because I was going through so many emotions because I also during my 4 years of undergrad, at leisure time, I used to code because in high school, I used to take computer
that's the
science.
sign, like you're coding on your free time when you want to be a doctor.
Right.
It's like maybe you don't really want to do that.
No, it was a really weird. It was like weird for me because like I like went through like so many like self reflection, and just like, okay, like this is something I'm doing as like my free time. This is something I could probably do as like a professional for my professional career, and like I can actually make money out of it. And so so I used to do coding like as a leisure time,
like
for like during like
in the like
just like
were you taking online courses? Oh, sorry.
No. So I didn't go. I mean, I only took computer classes like in high school, but like as leisure time, I like had a lot of like experienced like family members who were in software development. They're working, and they would always send over like their personal projects they developed. So I was able to like maybe mimic and recreate their projects, or like I would just look over it. And sometimes if I'm stuck, I would go to like different like coding sites to just like understand it better. And this is just like whenever I have time. So that's like where like I started to self-reflect and kind of like considered it as like a main career.
That's awesome, because I don't know any pre-med students who are into coding, because they're just completely different fields. I mean, usually if you want to be, because usually if you want to be pre-med, you'd focus on like research or doing other activities related to that.
And like I mean that was just one factor into why I decided not to do med school, but like there's many factors to it. Just like I really thought about it long term. I'm not someone who really wanted to be in school for that long, which like you have to like if you're pre-med, that's like a huge thing. Also another thing is like I don't mind like standardized tests, but I don't want to take standardized testing for the rest of the next 4 to 5 years. So there's just a lot of factors into it, and you really have it really comes down to being passionate. And I think a lot of incoming freshmen, usually when they declare especially at Wayne, I feel 80% to 90% of freshmen are pre-med.
Yeah,
and,
for sure. I remember that.
Yeah, it's very rare to see someone who's a business student or a computer science student.
Right.
But yeah, and the reasons, and a lot of reasons that I hear from people is oh, it's the status, or oh, it's the money involved.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really think about it, I'm not disowning doctors or whatever, but when it comes down to it, you're gonna build up debt from med school.
Yeah,
and you have to pay it off.
Yeah.
Way later, and so the first 4 years of you making money goes to you paying off your debt, and so you're not really rich.
Is it residency, or after you finish 4 years of med school you have to do residency and then you only get paid you get paid I don't know 50, 60K?
Yeah, 50, 60, which is and then that really comes down to also age too.
Right.
When you get out of college, when you get out of med school, it's after 4 years of undergrad, and then when you're probably in your late 20s, you're still making 50 to 60, and then after 3 years is when you start making the bucks. That still goes down to you paying off the debts,
Mm-hmm.
So you're not rich just yet. You're probably going to be rich way late into your career,
mm-hmm.
which is not something I was looking for. I wanted money can be a small aspect of your career, but basically that's not what I was looking for, in the sense I don't want to make money way more money late into my career. I want to make money faster, earlier, when I'm more young, so I'm able to do stuff,
Right.
Passion, a huge part into it.
For sure.
If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do well in med school.
Right.
You're going to feel miserable. You should. I mean, obviously, med school is very hard, but you have to. It's a passion that drives
mm-hmm.
you to get through it. And so so I realized I don't have that. So I would be really miserable in med school if that was the case.
That's good you figured that out early, though. Imagine if you were well into your second year and then you wanted to leave. And
I've read when I was during my gap year, I went through so many articles, so many different people who did switch from
mm-hmm.
pre-med or med to something else, and they were kind of well into med school, and it kind of sucked because they had to pay that much money,
mm-hmm.
waste that much money, and then there's a lot to it. You have to start from square one. It was a lot. So I was pretty happy that I found out what I really wanted to do first off. And I think that's why I encourage so many people to do to take a gap year after undergrad. If you're really unsure about what you want to do in undergrad, take a gap year and really take yourself out of the the community bubble, college community bubble, and you really realize what you want to do.
Yeah, because I always hear I know a lot of people who've taken gap years, but then there's a stigma around it where oh, you're wasting a year doing nothing. It's not if you take a gap year and you use that year to apply to med schools, you can't really put anything that you've done on that gap year. You can't put anything on your application that you've done in the gap year because you apply a year in advance anyways, but you'd be able to put everything you've done in your 4 years of university, but that year you apply, you can't write anything on your application. So people kind of think you're wasting a year, but I think it's a really great thing because you'd rather spend a year figuring things out than jump into something you're unsure of.
And then time and money because of it.
Yeah.
So it's super important. And that's also pre-med people who do want to take a gap year, they can use that year to really travel, because med school is tough from what I hear from my friends and from people that went through med school. It's you get burnt out and you don't have time.
Sure.
So yeah, just take that year as like a self-care year, you know?
Mm-hmm. So basically you had, finished a public health degree, you did research, you wrote your MCAT, and then took a gap year and then decided it wasn't for you. Because in the meantime, you would also be coding while you might have been doing other pre-med activities, right? And filling your time with those for your application. Then how were you going to get your foot in the door to become a software developer if you didn't have the experience aside from, having family in the field?
Yeah, so that was like a huge thing because I was worried if I had to really restart undergrad, basically, to, change careers. But I heard from a family friend about bootcamps, coding bootcamps, and they are basically like a 3-month intense but immersive programs, coding programs that help individuals to not pay a lot and still get a good job, like a software job. There are 3 months, of studying. So that was like one way I can do it. Another way was bachelor's, go back to undergrad, maybe 2 more years, and take like a computer science major, and then that could work. And for me, I didn't want to go back to school for the next 2 years to study, kind of redo kind of things. And coding boot camps was just kind of, it looked good to me, And so I decided to do that. And what I did was I attended one of their workshops. So they do like a 1-hour free workshops.
Okay.
And they kind of teach you the basics of HTML, CSS, very, very basic stuff. And I really liked it. It was the coding bootcamp that I decided to join was Grand Circus at Detroit. And they do all kinds of developments. They do back-end development, front-end development. I was really in tune with front-end development just because I really like user experience, designing, stuff like that. So I wanted to get into front-end development. So, yeah, and then, after that workshop, I really liked it. I just, liked the vibes. I loved the people there. I liked how everything was structured. They provide you free coffee.
The free coffee.
Every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for this Grand Circus boot camp, you had the free 1-hour workshop, and then do they have different programs that you can get into, or was it just the one 3-month program that covers everything?
Yeah, so there's all the programs that they provide are 3 months. So there's not no, I lied. So there are daytime boot campers and after-hour boot campers. So after-hour boot campers are people who don't want to quit their full-time job, but they still want to be part of the boot camp. So those people would have their full-time job, 8 to 5, and then they would attend the boot camps 5 to 10. So, and that takes more time. So I think that duration is 6 months.
Okay.
And then the daytime one, it was you're there every day, so it's 3 months. It's a lot shorter.
Okay, so there's either a 6-month after hours one, or there's a 3-month one that's all day.
If someone wanted to choose, which I was one of them who chose the 3-month course, it was a full-time student. You're considered a full-time student. So you're there 9 a.m. till 5 p.m.
How many other people were in your cohort?
So in my cohort, in my class, cohort, I would say probably there were 200 people.
Oh, wow. All 200, 9 to 5. Okay.
But in my class, there was 15 to 20 people.
So how much did the program cost you overall for 3 months?
Yeah. Okay, overall, I think it would be $8,000.
Okay. And was there potential for scholarships?
Yes, there are. There are multiple scholarships catered to different people. So if a girl were to join this, there's a lot of because of STEM girls and stuff like that, there's a lot of scholarships with that. If you're Hispanic or African American or like a different descent. Like I think there's like different types of scholarships cater to different people, and you just have to like maybe write like an essay to them, and then they kind of pick out the best one or who deserves it. And so I think I did. I don't know what I did, but I think I did one of them. But yeah, that's basically it. And I think that scholarship is like $1,000 off.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess with COVID though, things must have changed.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, they're probably already fully online right now because you were going in person to do this, like downtown Detroit.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was. Yeah.
But are they still offering online, like fully online boot camps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. They're fully remote right now, and I think they ended their April cohort, and they're starting up the July one. So I'm pretty sure the July one's happening right now, like getting the newbies on board.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're fully remote, and I was actually in person since it's like I was actually in person for most of my boot camp until things really hit with COVID. In the last 2 weeks, we were fully remote, and it was honestly like our cohort was impacted a lot just because like this is such a new thing, being completely in person to like remotely, and it took them a while to figure out how to like make it work. It took us a while to how to make it work because like software development, coding, all of that, like yeah, you're working like on the computer maybe all day, but the most important part is like we're collaborating with different people on a project, and communication is super important in like software development.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like communication was like a huge thing that we all worried about because the last 2 weeks we were working on like final projects for the boot camp. So that involves a lot of like, communication, stuff like that. So yeah, that was like a big thing.
Can you talk a bit more about what you learned within those 3 months that you think would prepare you for a job in the software field? Or like prepare you for a job in software development?
Yeah, so I did front-end development. So that covers HTML, CSS, AngularJS, JavaScript, TypeScript, and then within that, they kind of like want you to kind of like, even though you're doing front-end development, they want to make you learn a little bit of back-end development. So I was able to learn like Node.js and Express.
Well, what's the difference between front-end and back-end development for those who don't know?
Yeah, so front-end development is basically developers who work on basically the front end of the web application. So they look at the design, the layout of the application. They look at
the user is going to see.
What the user is going to see. So they want their main goal is to create as much user expectations for that web application. Now the back-end developers, they're the ones who work on the back end of the web application, or they are the ones who kind of connect whatever the user puts in and what they get back. And so that's like the functionalities of the web application and how the web application works. How does it respond when a user uses the application?
So with the front end development that you learned, how did you implement it? Like they probably taught you everything in like a condensed 3 months, but then how did they let you implement what you learned? Because you said you had a final project. Maybe you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, they do projects every now and then. So I worked on probably 4 projects during the boot camp, and that kind of really helps you, whatever skills you learned, it helps you utilize it for the project. And so then you get paired up with people in your class, and then you create, like, you come up with an idea for a web application, and you just kind of work with it.
So what was your idea?
So I can talk about like my final project because I think that's the most important one. Because like that final project is where you kind of tie in everything you learn with that, like with 3 months you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And we did like an NBA trivia app, and so that's basically where the user is able to take like a quiz about NBA and there's like, it's kind of like a game, trivia game, and then it takes you to like a different web page where it shows you previous years and where you rank among those players. User can input like their location, so you can see where other players around you are located. So yeah, that was like the main idea of it, just because, and even like the inspiration behind coming up with this NBA project is because when COVID hit, NBA season kind of got canceled, obviously. So it was kind of like a way to give back to all those fans that's not able to really be in person to watch basketball games, can't be in person to really celebrate basketball. And so it was just kind of like a way to give back to those people, just because it was, you know, those weeks and months were kind of tough with COVID.
Was it an app or was it a website?
It was a website.
After you finished these 3 months, because you finished in March, right? And then COVID hit. So it's been, I guess, like as soon as you graduated, you probably wanted to look for software-related jobs, and then this happened. But what are your next steps moving forward with this in this new field?
Yeah. So after the 3 months ended, so you start applying to jobs usually like 2 months into the boot camp.
Do they help you, by the way? Like, do they give you tips for job applications? Yeah.
For sure. There is like a separate, like, not just, you don't learn in this boot camp, you not only you learn technical skills, you learn soft skills too, because the most important part about getting a job is the candidate needs to like know how to talk, know how to behave in an interview. You know, that's like super important.
Right.
And usually the person who has the least amount of technical skills but have like the best soft skills, in the sense like their behavioral interviews go well, are usually the ones who get employed, you know? Technical skills, it's super important, but how you act in a corporate world or in a work environment is super important to them. So we learned soft skills, and that happened almost like every Friday, and they would teach you necessary stuff to like do well in an interview, and they really kind of like walk you through how to go about with the job search, where you should be applying, how do you say it out? Who to contact, how to network with people. That's super important. They help you with your LinkedIn, how to grow your network, and stuff like that.
They probably include quite a lot if it's about $8,000.
For sure.
Moving forward, what do you expect your job hunt is going to look like? Like, are you trying to look for a remote job right now, or just waiting until this is over and building up more skills?
Yeah, so I actually had, I was interviewing before COVID hit, and then with the whole COVID situation, hiring process kind of froze, and it was really the worst time to be applying. And so currently right now, I am interviewing at a few places, and hopefully good news, we'll hear back from them. And I am during COVID, when the job market was literally so slow, I used that time to really freshen up my skills, but also learn new skills along the way. I learned C#, I learned Python, so stuff like that.
I think this really just goes to show that you don't need a 4-year degree to work in most fields you don't need a 4-year degree, maybe for healthcare, because I'm not in healthcare, but
healthcare,
for healthcare, for sure. You need to know a lot, but for things like computers, you can really learn pretty quickly just from boot camps.
A lot of people are very, very skeptical of boot camps, and before I even joined a boot camp, a lot of my some friends would be like, "Are you sure? Is that a good idea?"
Right, because it is $8,000 to just drop it on a boot camp. And what should you do? Blah blah. But I heard so many great things about Grand Circus. They do really good job. If you put your it has to come through you. If you put the work and really want to get a job, if you root yourself out there at the job market, you will get a job. No doubt about it. It's the people who don't do well in boot camps are the ones who take it lightly, don't they don't
they don't have the passion for coding. Like, they only do it only for assignments. Like, you have to love, when you do coding, you have to do it, like, during your break time, like your leisure times and stuff like that,
Right. This was less than an actual university semester. And I mean, would you say that anything you learned from your public health degree translated into this? Or if you had just done this boot camp, you would be prepared for software?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For public health, I can even say, like, my 4 years, like, I was a really quiet kid in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did pre-med and when I did research, like, you are always in, like, a team setting, in a sense. Like, maybe you're studying for an exam with, like a group of people, or, like, in research, you're with your coworkers, and you're talking to patients, you're talking to doctors. You need to build up communication skills, and I built my communication skills through that,
Mm-hmm,
and that well applies to, like, software development, because you're working with a team. You're not working on a project by yourself, Like, you're working with a team, and so that requires having really good communication skills. That requires having good follow-up skills and stuff like that. And how do you act in a work environment? I never thought my degree was a waste, just because, like, I learned a lot through public health and like, even healthcare. Healthcare definitely needs a lot of developers nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of software jobs in the healthcare field. Well, there are probably software jobs in, like, every industry, because you need someone
every industry
to do. Yeah,
for sure. And I think, like, there's so many health startups in Michigan and all around U.S. If you are someone who wants to, like, go into, like, software development, but you literally have, like, a healthcare degree, like, you're completely fine. You're actually doing yourself a favor. You're making your job. You're making yourself as a job applicant more appealing to employers.
Right now, you're in the middle of interviews during COVID, so they're just going to, like, hire you. If you get hired, you'd be working remotely.
Yeah. I mean, there's, like, one company that it's more like a program where they train you, and they kind of want your training to be in person.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one company, but usually, like, it's gonna be remote just because COVID.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with software, like, a lot of things could end up being
like,
more remote.
Like, my dad works in Mercedes, and he has to, like, his company said that he can come back to work in person next year, April.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that same. I heard a lot. It's like, they'll come back until mid-2021.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
No one's going anywhere. Everyone will be in the comfort of their house working. A lot of companies are really realizing how there's actually, like, a research done during COVID time where, like, people working from home are way, way, way more productive than they are in person.
There's no balance between, like, being at work and being at home, because you're basically working. I know some people are working, like, 12-hour days now just because they're home, so they just keep getting bombarded with work. So it's also not a great thing, but it can definitely work to, like, your advantage to just work from home in software. Yeah. Where do you expect to see yourself in the next 5 years? Like, what do you want to work in? Front-end development specifically, or something else?
So I do want, for the next 5 years, I do want to be a full-time developer, but I am working towards becoming, like, a product manager. I do want to be someone who kind of manages projects, because I always see myself as someone who, loves to collaborate, loves to, like, have team meetings, loves to, like, be part of a team and manage projects. So that's kind of, like, what I'm working towards. But in order to do that, you need to know technical skills.
Yeah.
So I do want to, like, pick up as many technical skills as possible and become a full-stack developer.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, and good luck in your journey.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.